The Entrepreneur's Blueprint for Total Health. Good health is essential for entrepreneurs. We have lots of demands on us physically, mentally, and of course emotionally too. So for us to be able to perform at our best and really be able to give what we need to be able to give to be successful, it really all starts with our health. And it's funny because oftentimes our health is the one thing that we take for granted because it isn't something that we normally need to think about. It's just with us. So as long as we have it, we feel okay about it. But once it's gone, then all of a sudden it becomes a crisis and a problem. And when I'm talking about health here, most often when we think about health, what we're thinking about is physical health. Am I physically feeling good? Is my body healthy? Those kinds of things. And physical health is important for sure, but it goes way beyond that because we also need to be in the right mindset. It isn't just, are we physically capable of doing the work we need to do? We also need to be thinking about how are we thinking in our head, right? Do we have the mindset where we're set up for success? Everybody's had a day where maybe physically their body felt okay, but your mind just doesn't feel connected. It doesn't feel dialed in. So we don't have the right mindset for it. And what about emotional steadiness? Some days we're on a razor's edge. We have things going on in our life, whether it's family issues or relationship issues or financial issues or whatever it is. And all of these things can create a tremendous amount of emotional uneasiness in us as well, which then can permeate into business and into our daily activity because we need to be able to be performing at our best, but it's hard to do that when we're preoccupied with everything else. And then also the fact of sense of inner peace or relaxation. So we can balance that chaos. If we're feeling for some reason, spiritually sort of out of balance, we don't feel like our life is in check and that we have control over things, oftentimes that also can lead to that, feeling of chaos being overwhelming. And we're at a point where we're trying to run a business. We're trying to manage all the things that need to be done there. We need to be fully present. We need to be fully dialed in. It's really difficult to do that if we're also trying to balance the chaos of running a business and we personally don't feel very well. And so I think it's really important for entrepreneurs in particular. It's important for everybody in life, but in particular for entrepreneurs to be able to take care of their health, but also to understand it from a holistic standpoint. Because if we only focus on one thing, I go to the gym every day. Well, that's great. And that will take care of your physical health to some regard. But there are other elements to it as well. And so I think it's really important to look at it and look at it from all the different angles. So at a very minimum, at the bare minimum, we at least have an awareness, right? If we choose to not do something about something, but we had an awareness, then that's sort of on us. If we don't have the awareness, then it's very difficult to be hard on ourselves or to expect that somehow we could have made different decisions because we can only make decisions based on the information that we've got. So let's dive into the main areas of health and let's talk about what we can do to actually set ourselves up for success through the habits that can touch on all these key areas because it's super important. And so it isn't about adding extra things to our plate or more things to worry about. It's about making subtle changes to incorporate things into our lives that are naturally going to lead us toward better health that's not only better in the moment, but something that's sustainable for the long term. So obviously, when we talk about health, the number one thing that jumps to mind is physical health, right? And so what are things that we can do to prioritize our physical health or at least take care of it to a degree that we know we're going to be able to function? One is to prioritize sleep and rest. This is another one that for entrepreneurs, oftentimes we neglect. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't have time for that. And it's totally understandable when we have a very heavy workload to feel that way. At the same time, it's actually counterproductive. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I've been through periods of time where I've worked 16 to 18 hours a day and I wasn't sleeping enough, let alone having any other kind of balance. And I felt crummy all the time. I was always pushing myself. I was always bleary-eyed. And look, I had a lot of willpower. I had a lot of discipline. And so I was able to physically do it, but I didn't feel good. And I was never operating at my best. I was always operating from a place of lack. And when you're in that state, it's much harder on every other element of what we're trying to do. If we can prioritize sleep and rest, and we can do that so we can aim for at least that 7 hours of night. And we need to judge this on ourselves too. Some people naturally need 8. If you don't get 8, you wake up in the morning, you're feeling grumpy. Some people, like for me, 7 is okay. 7 is kind of a magic number. If I get 7, I wake up the next day feeling really good. If I get 6, I wake up the next day feeling tired. So I know that 6 is not enough. At the same time, I don't need 9 hours of sleep. If I sleep for 9 hours, I actually wake up groggy. So we need to understand ourselves, obviously, with this. But what we need to do is figure out what that sweet spot is, aim for it, and be deliberate. And the way that I taught myself to do this is I said, okay, I understand I have so much to do that I really don't have time to sleep, but let me just force myself to go to sleep earlier tonight, set the alarm, whatever it is, and then I want to pay attention to my productivity the next day. As soon as I became aware of it, when I woke up the next day after having had at least 7 hours of sleep, I woke up with an energy level. I woke up with a natural optimism. I woke up feeling better and being able to operate better without needing to push myself. And for me, it was literally like a light switch because I had known nothing different. I was working so much and I was sleeping so little that sort of powering through stuff was the default for me. But then I would crash or I would be completely not present anytime I was doing anything other than my business because I didn't have any energy left. So anytime I could unplug from that, I was shutting down the engines. As soon as I started to sleep more, what I realized is, ironically, even though I was carving an extra hour out of my night for work, I was feeling better and I was more productive during the hours of the day. So I know it's a cliche and people say it all the time, but it's super important to prioritize that rest. It isn't enough just to catch up on the weekend. We've got to find a way to work that in. And if we need to cram for a project, that's okay. I'm not talking about it has to be every single night. We're going to have those nights. But in general, we need to shoot for at least that 7 to 9 hours, depending on what we need. And we want to try to establish that as a consistent sleep schedule. And that will help create a relaxing bedtime routine where we're able to naturally nestle in and settle into bed and fall asleep a little bit easier. Adequate rest, and this has been proven over and over and over again, is crucial for cognitive function, creativity, and overall well-being. So again, the irony is the more we push ourselves, the more we deprive ourselves of sleep, we actually are counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. And that's where the problem becomes. We need to make sure we do that. The second part of physical health is to exercise regularly. Now, I like the gym. I like to work out with weights, and I'm not always as, committed to it as I should be. I'm in general pretty good about it. But I do go through periods where I get away from it because I get busy or whatever else, and then I have to have that sort of thing kick me back into gear and get me back in there. But exercise regularly to incorporate physical activity into our daily routine is vitally important. Now, these don't need to be heavy weightlifting, powerlifting, crazy stuff. It can be any kind of workout like a non-negotiable appointment. And that's the way we want to think about it. So whether we're walking around the park, walking around the building 10 times, going for a jog, hitting the weights, doing a Pilates class or aerobics or cycling or spinning or whatever we want to do, pickleball, it doesn't matter what it is, but we need to physically get moving. Study after study after study has shown that this leads to better cognitive abilities as well, greater happiness, in addition to the fact that it keeps us younger longer. Because when we're able to exercise, it helps all the rest of our body. There's an absolute connection between mind and body that way. And so if we schedule it in the same way we schedule a lunch or the same way we schedule an appointment or a client meeting, then it becomes part of what we do. And we can vary what we do for it. But we want to get in at least that 30 minutes every single day of some kind of physical activity. It's super important. And one of the keys or secrets to doing it and being consistent and disciplined is to find activities that you like. Whether it's running, yoga, team sports, it doesn't matter. But if we do something that we're forcing ourselves to do, what happens is, like a New Year's resolution, the minute we get pushed by our life and our schedule, the first thing we give up is the workout we didn't want to do in the first place. So whatever it is, a walk in nature, it doesn't really matter. We need to get up, get moving. Even short bursts of exercise throughout the day have been proven to boost energy and productivity. Super, super important. I know for me, one of the routines I actually really liked was a lunchtime workout routine. Because what I found is, especially when I started my day early, my energy would start to wane around lunchtime. Then if I ate a big meal, I'd also feel like I wanted a nap. If instead I ate like a protein shake and something simple for lunch, and I like to eat, so that wasn't easy, it took conditioning, but if I worked out and then I did that, what I found is it powered me through the rest of the day. The third element of physical health is to maintain a balanced diet. And this is really important as well, because that is the fuel that runs the engine of our body and our mind. We have to fuel our body with nutritious meals that are rich in fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, eat as much whole food as we possibly can, as little processed as we can. I know it's easier said than done, especially if we're busy. What I can tell you is, even as an adult who was not doing any competitive athletics, when my son had a hamstring injury and the doctor said the only cure for this is lots of whole food protein, and we started grilling fish, grilling chicken, doing all this every time, what happened was my own body improved. All the sort of things that I had that didn't feel good, and the wonky elbow and shoulder and knee, it all went away because my own body was getting a lot better nutrients and feeling a lot better. So it absolutely helps. And it helps every element of our body to be able to do that, in our mind. And so it's not always easy, but you can find very simple recipes if you're cooking at home. I have like a 6-minute grilled chicken. I have like a 10-minute, and I had to find them. I had to search for quick, easy. I didn't want anything that was going to take too long because I know I won't be able to do it. When I go out to buy things, instead of going to get fast food, I'll run over to Whole Foods and buy their pre-made salmon dinner, right? Where you get 3 whole pieces of salmon, green beans, potatoes, something like that. So now you've got food. You know, HelloFresh has fantastic meals that they'll be able to send you, and then you're able to just make that in 15, 20 minutes. And one of their specialties is quick made stuff. So it's very fast, very easy. Anyway, we want totally lean food, whole foods. And we want to stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water throughout the day. I actually keep a cup of water with me at my desk all the time. So just by reflex, I'll drink. And over the course of the day, I just keep filling it up. I've had all that I need to drink without needing a power drink to get in my water. So meal preps, pre-made kits like HelloFresh, using any of those healthy meal delivery service like that. Ensure we're eating well during busy periods is super important. The second element of health is our mental health, and this is super important as well. This is something that oftentimes does not get nearly the attention that it should, but it's super important because even if physically we're feeling good, if mentally we aren't all there, if mentally we just don't feel right about our life and where we are, it's a distraction. It makes it difficult to focus and be totally present in the work we're trying to do. So we want to practice mindfulness and meditation. Now, I'm not a huge meditator myself, but I recognize the value of this. So whatever it is for you, again, a walk in nature, right? Set aside time for daily mindfulness exercises or meditation, because just by doing that, without any distraction, without external impulse, to turn off the news, turn off the radio, turn off everything else, and just think, just sit and think, and be mindful, be aware, be present. It actually reduces stress and improves our focus. It's remarkable the effect that it can absolutely have. So if we set aside a little bit of time each day to do this, and we really meditate, we can reduce our stress, we can improve our focus. And there are apps that can help you do this as well, that can help for guided sessions. So if it's something like, well, I'm interested, but I don't really know what I need to do, there are apps that you can use. There are various other guided sessions where we can figure out how to be mindful. And once we develop that as a habit, it's actually pretty easy to maintain it. And it only needs to be a few minutes a day, but it's remarkable the difference it makes when we're able to unplug from the chaos and the craziness of the day to be able to do that kind of thing. The second element of mental health is to establish boundaries. This is one I was terrible at, so I'm going to raise my hand on this. The fact of the matter is we need to create clear boundaries between work and personal life. Now, if we work at an external location, this is much easier. We might bring our work home with us, but we also know, okay, this is a boundary, right? We know what we're doing. When we work from a home office, this is very challenging because they commingle, they coexist. You know, we go out for our lunch break for our business and we see dishes in the sink, we're cleaning that up, we're doing domestic stuff, personal stuff during work time, and we're doing work time during personal stuff. We're watching TV at night, unplugging, but we're also have our laptop open doing work. Establishing boundaries, having time where we literally shut everything off is super important. It's not wrong to sometimes do both at once or mix them. So to watch an occasional TV show with your laptop out, no problem with that. But have a particular time where the laptop gets put away and shut off. The cell phone alerts get turned off, whatever it is. So it's just those work hours. And you need to have those work hours as well. I was bad the other way as well, where I knew that I needed to be working, but I saw so many things I needed to do around the house. I had a hard time. So I'm doing a load of laundry. I'm doing this. I'm mowing the lawn. It's super important that we designate specific work hours. And when we do that, we work. We're not calling friends. We're not doing any of the other stuff. That's on our personal time. At the same time, once we've unplugged, we need to stop checking work emails, stop taking business calls. Unless they're emergencies, we need to unplug from all of that stuff and be done with it. The third element of mental health is continuous learning. Believe it or not, by actually feeding our minds with positive things, this is a way to maintain a good state of mental health, because we naturally are curious human beings, and as we continue to grow, if we feel like we're growing, we feel good about ourselves. So when we engage in lifelong learning, that keeps our mind sharp, it keeps us adaptable, it keeps our sphere of influence and experience growing, so we can read books, we can listen to podcasts, we can attend workshops, take online courses, anything in areas that interest us. And it doesn't have to just be professional. It doesn't all have to be for professional growth. It can be for personal growth as well. Any of those kinds of things are really valuable. You know, I just watched the other night on Netflix, The Comeback. I'm a big Red Sox fan, so it was awesome to revisit that 2004 World Series, the devastation the year before with the Yankees, and then the triumph that year. And it was totally unrelated to business in every possible way, but I was totally immersed in it. I found it fascinating. I found it engaging. I loved it. And I was able to completely unplug from any business stuff for hours while I watched that. The third element of health that we definitely want to be able to take into account is our emotional health. So emotional health is another one of these things that's a little bit sneaky. It's a little bit less overt. So it's something that oftentimes gets overlooked. And particularly, I hate to stereotype, but particularly for men, it's something that we don't think about or focus on because we aren't supposed to be emotional. We're supposed to be analytical. We're not supposed to, have any kind of letdowns or any, depression feelings or any of those other kinds of emotional issues. But the fact is we're human beings. And I don't care whether you're man, woman, child, whatever, you are susceptible. We're all susceptible to issues with our emotional health. So it's really important to be able to build up a strong foundation there too, so we have some resilience. So the first way we can do that is to build a support network, right? We can cultivate relationships. It can be with fellow entrepreneurs. I'm a big believer in that. If we're an entrepreneur and a business owner, regardless of our outside group of friends and how wonderful it is in our family, I think it's super important to have a group of fellow entrepreneurs. And the reason for it is because we're in the same fight. We have an understanding of each other and what our challenges are better than anybody else, better than our spouse, better than our kids. It just is what it is. They may not love us as much as our spouse or kids, but they understand us better. And so when we connect with them to share our frustrations, our fears, our concerns, our hopes, all that other stuff, it just hits differently. So it's very, very valuable to cultivate relationships with fellow entrepreneurs, but also mentors. Anybody who can help us stand back from the fray and get recentered and understand what's important is very valuable. So people who have been there, who have done that, mentors in various elements of our lives. Friends who might understand our journey are still very valuable. They may not be able to present us with business advice, but they can sure present us with support. And that's really important. So we don't want to isolate ourselves. We want to make sure that we make time for social connections and meaningful conversations. This is something, again, I'm terribly guilty of. And it's what I consider to be one of the biggest mistakes in my entire entrepreneurial career, is that I spent way too much time thinking it was more important to do stuff than it was to connect with people. And all the stuff that I did never mattered to the same degree that it does to be connected with other people. When we connect with other people, we feel better about who we are. We get faster answers to things. There's synergies we never saw coming. Opportunities open up. It's a completely different world. And I can promise you, if you're like I am, take the leap and invest in relationships. You'll be amazed at the difference that it will make in your life and your business. So we want to make time for those social connections and meaningful conversations. The second element of the emotional health is practice self-compassion. This is something almost nobody talks about, and it's so important. We beat ourselves up all the time. We are our own worst critics. And as entrepreneurs, it doesn't get any worse than that. We're so hard on ourselves. We expect us to always have the answers, always be able to persevere, always be able to pull through no matter what. We have people that are counting on us. We're counting on ourselves. We have the nerve to, or the stupidity, if you want to call it, to put out our shingle and start a business. We feel then responsible to make sure that everything is always operating at its peak level. And the reality of it is that isn't life. There are going to be problems. There are going to be challenges. We're going to make mistakes. We have to be kind to ourselves. We have to recognize that setbacks and failures are part of the journey. And in fact, if we handle them the right way, they can actually make us stronger. They can actually make us more resilient. They can actually make us more successful. And when you study the greatest entrepreneurs in the history of the world, what you'll find is the same pattern repeats itself. They had problems. They had challenges. They had failures. They just never gave up. It isn't that they went straight to the top because they were such geniuses. It's that they never gave up and that they understood that that was all part of the process. So instead of letting it defeat them, they said, what can I learn from this to make me better so I don't make the same mistake again? And so I get closer to my target each and every time. So we want to learn from our mistakes and not be as harsh about ourselves with the criticism. Give ourselves a break. Love ourselves unconditionally. We oftentimes treat ourselves worse than we treat anybody else we'd ever know. And that's a shame. Love ourselves. Be proud of ourselves for the fact that we took the leap to be an entrepreneur in the first place. The third part of emotional health and well-being is to manage stress proactively. We all have moments of heightened stress, intense stress. And if we wait until it gets to a point of overwhelm before we do anything about it, first of all, we've already hurt our own productivity and effectiveness. But beyond that, we're risking serious issues with our health. We have to identify our stress triggers, and we have to develop healthy coping mechanisms to be able to work through them. So it doesn't matter what they are. We can think about this and decide for ourselves. It can be deep breathing exercises. Sometimes journaling is a good way to sort of get our thoughts out on paper and make it so we, are able to work through things. Maybe engaging in hobbies that make us happy and get us excited about what we're doing. But whatever it is, we have to be able to process that. We've got to be able to identify that stress. We have to be able to recognize when it's starting to creep up. And we need some strategies for how we can deal with it. So that way it doesn't overwhelm us and cripple us. And the fourth aspect of health is spiritual health. Now, this doesn't mean religious. If you aren't religious, that's totally fine. Spirituality and religion are two different things. So for spiritual health, we want to define our purpose. We want to clarify what our values are and what our deeper purpose is that we believe that we're here for. When we have a deeper purpose behind our entrepreneurial endeavor, and we know that what we're doing is here to serve a higher means, then that gives us power, it gives us strength, it gives us clarity, it gives us resilience that we might not otherwise have. And we want to regularly reflect on how that work aligns with our core beliefs and aspirations, who we are, what we set out to do in this in the first place, right? That's all super important. The second piece of spiritual health is to practice gratitude. It's amazing. This is an amazing exercise that I found transformative. I never really actively engaged in the practice of gratitude. Not that I was never grateful, but I didn't deliberately and specifically do it. And once I started a habit of thinking of 5 things each day that I was grateful for, and really feeling it, not just thinking intellectually about it, but feeling it, what I found is it was transformative. It's almost impossible to be in a bad mood after that. It's almost impossible not to feel grateful and to feel good about what you've got ahead of you. So if you start or end each day, or both, by noting things that we're grateful for, this is something we can do privately, we can do it in our own head, and we can do it in 3 minutes. So there's no excuse for anybody to not do this. That simple practice, the first few times it's hard, then it gets a little bit easier. As we start to develop it into a habit, it can literally shift our perspective and increase our overall life satisfaction. Study after study after study has been done on that, and it's proven to increase the quality of our life just by spending a few minutes each day being grateful. The third element of spiritual health is to connect with nature. Nature has a proven ability for some reason to lower blood pressure. It has physical benefits in addition to the spiritual benefits of making us feel connected to something that's bigger than ourselves. When we spend time outdoors regularly, whether it's a short walk in a park, a weekend hike, connecting with nature can really provide a perspective and a renewal that we've been desperately needing. And that is something that's super powerful, and it can be whatever, again, is personally rewarding and desirable for us to do, but something in nature. When we optimize those 4 areas of our health, that is the key to unlocking our peak performance. But of course, doing it is obviously easier said than done. I know that it's a lot to focus on, and we're already always busy, so it's a real challenge. The problem, though, is that if we neglect our health, it comes back to haunt us, and then everything suffers. So to put this in real terms, let's talk about a simple strategy to implement all 4 of these. And while it may not optimize each one of them, at the perfect level, it certainly will improve them, and it will at least make sure that we're addressing each aspect of our health proactively. We're aware of it, we're doing something about it. So here are some practical tips to make it all work together. The first one is to create a morning routine. Start our day with activities that nourish our mind, our body, and our spirit. Maybe a little meditation, exercise, journaling, reading inspirational material. When we do that, we're sort of filling a couple of the buckets there. And we're doing it to start the day, which makes it a lot more easy to maintain that throughout the day because we're already off to a great start. The second thing is use time blocking. Schedule specific times for work tasks, exercise, meals, and relaxation. Now, if you're an entrepreneur and a worker, right, somebody who works all the time, you might already be familiar with time blocking for work, but here's the key. Use it for the personal stuff. The benefit of time blocking isn't just for the work, it's the opposite. When we time block and we say, this 40 minutes I'm going for the jog, this 40 minutes I'm going to cook a fresh meal today, this 40 minutes I'm going to go relax out in the hammock in the park, or whatever I'm going to do. All of those things now become parts of our schedule, so they no longer feel like distractions from work. They feel like part of what we're doing. And as we do this and develop this into a habit, it becomes just naturally that we're more balanced. So we want to treat all of those blocks of time as non-negotiable appointments. That's the key. The third thing is regular check-ins. We want to conduct weekly self-assessments with ourselves to evaluate our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Just having that awareness is going to help us, and then we can make adjustments to our routines as needed. And the fourth piece, if necessary, is seek professional support. Don't hesitate to consult with healthcare professionals, therapists, or coaches for personalized guidance and support. Get your annual physical, so physically you know that you're healthy, right? Check in with all these other services to make sure that everything is going the way that it needs to be. And if it's not, get the help we need and get the support we need. Those four things in our routines, if we can include all of them, we're at least checking the box for each type of health, and we're proactively addressing it in a preventative maintenance way. Now, we might need to do more, but at least this gets us a good start to feeling good and performing at our best. So the takeaway here is that health is one of those sneaky but deceptively important things. We often take it for granted and we don't prioritize it enough or take good enough care of ourselves until there's a problem. Then we'll do anything to fix it, and all the other stuff we thought was so important no longer matters as much. It's ironic and unfortunate. So while we can't control everything with our health, let's commit to at least being aware and taking conscious steps to address each aspect so we can be happy and healthy, and hopefully that much more successful too.